most of what's on the media and out there about transgender people isn't, necessarily the only presentation of transgender people. And then musically, I just, I hope that they can see, the depth of my lyrics and what I'm trying to say.
And join you in your fight. Every time I look to you, you're living out your destiny. You're not hiding in sanctuaries, waiting for God to see. You've written everything you believe in on the back of your right hand. It says love will conquer everything, and the truth will set you free. And nothing's gonna come between us, and no one's gonna take the fall. We're in this thing together, with our backs against the wall. With our backs against the wall, we will never have to crawl. With our backs against the wall, together we stand, together we fall. I have seen the future by looking at the past. You know that man will burden everything until his final blast. But you and I, we won't be there, singing from the mountaintop. We're singing glory, hallelujah. We're thankful for what we're not.
I was born Wayne George Mahler in 1953 in Baltimore, Maryland. I'd say I had a pretty idyllic childhood, except for dealing with the transgender stuff, which I was dealing with myself. As early as 4 years old, I knew that there was something wrong, if wrong's the right word. I started writing when I was in elementary school, actually. Real simple songs. Of course, some of them were about girls that I was attracted to in elementary school, and love stories and that kind of thing. Real simplistic stuff.
I first met Wayne George Mahler 1972, I'd say it was. I was playing in a local group, and the leader of the group had told me that we were going up to our local high school there and that they were putting on a musical. And George and another friend of his had written the music for it, and they wanted us to perform the music.
Keith McNamee was a bass player when I was in junior high, and he was playing in a lot of popular bands during the high school period. And I used to see, when I did get into high school, I used to see him walking down the hall, and he was a heavyset white guy, and he had an afro that was like out to here, and it wasn't permed, it was natural. And he was just about the wildest guy, you know, that you'd ever want to meet.
I liked the music that he was playing at that time, the originals that he was doing. That they were for the play, but still I don't know, there was just a sense about him that I said, you know, this guy's got talent. He was putting together a group, and he asked me if I would be interested in coming down to play with him. So I came over to his house, and he had a couple of people, and I had some of my own friends that I wanted to bring into the group. So at that point, we sort of like merged together, and we started playing music.
At the time, Stephen Stills had a band called Manassas, and so we figured if he could name a band after a town, so could we, so we called it Jessup.
Wayne, I could tell at that time, where George was not really too happy with doing cover material. And he had formed another group on the side that was basically doing a lot of original music. I could tell that there was a feeling that he wanted to go out and do his own thing and do his own music. So, and I respected that. We tried to do a couple of his songs, but we were basically a top 40 cover band.
You know, he's one of my oldest and dearest friends. And, you know, he was the first person I really told about my gender issues.
He really thought that I knew about it, and I was completely blown away because I had no idea. I mean, here's a cat that many times we were playing, he was the one that would get all the girls, you know, in the band. He was the focal point of the band.
A lot of people just thought it was a phase in me, and, you know, I may have even, you know, I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know whether it was, you know, just some kind of fetish thing that was in my life that I had to deal with on that level. And, you know, like some people are into whips and chains and, you know, things like that, or you know, what it was. I went to California like a lot of young people do because they think that's the place to make it. We went out there to try and see if we could get in the door somewhere and, you know, be rock stars. I was proud of some of the things that we accomplished considering what we knew about what we were doing. We got on a show called Dick Whittington's Show, which was a morning talk show, more or less. But the guy was one of the most widely listened to DJs in the morning, and I used to drive a delivery truck out there and used to listen to him in the morning. And I took a 45 that two fellas had produced at 45. One song I wrote back in Baltimore, and the other song was written by this singer friend of mine, Tim. And we recorded them at the two producers' expenses, and we took it out to Dick Whittington, and he agreed to play it. And then he invited us on to the show. And I think the drummer in that band and myself were the only ones that would get up and go to the show. And the rest of the guys didn't do anything, and the writing was kind of like on the wall at that point. The group split up and everybody went their way. I came back, I don't know, 6 months after the singer came back, and I put together a group called Georgie Jessup and the Jewels, and that's where Georgie Jessup first originated from, and Mac is the one that came up with that name because George was my middle name, given middle name. And he used to hear my father when he'd come home from work, and, you know, if I was down there, he'd say Georgie or whatever, refer to me as Georgie. And so Mac came up with George E. Jessup and the Jewels. And, you know, I was really into like the retro R&B was going on. The Blues Brothers had been out or had just come out. And, you know, I was doing a lot of the old Wilson Pickett and Otis Redding and Aretha Franklin and all those kinds of songs, and along with my originals. And so that was the first band that I fronted. I actually got a keyboard player and had a keyboard player so I could just sing. And we played around for a couple of years. And then using that same name, I hooked up with Mac again, and a couple guys that Mac knew. And we did a demo of 5 songs for a songwriting, not songwriting, but a band contest, and we actually came in second. From that point on, you know, we were in and out of groups together over the next, I don't know, 20 or 30 years probably. But one group that we really enjoyed doing was Wavelength. And that was a group that mainly did top 40 rhythm and blues rock. But we also did a lot of George's originals.
I told you it was an excellent week ahead, and I promised you some excellent music tonight, and you are about to get it. A stellar band whose music has been called American rock and roll, like Bruce Springsteen or Bob Seger. Ladies and gentlemen, the original sounds of Wavelength.
I don't want your power, don't want your pain. Said I only want to live my life so I can be again. I don't need your money, but I'm not your whore. I said I had enough of your fork-tongue lies that last a million years or more. But it takes nothing to give a man his pride. Nothing. Judge him on how he rides. He takes nothing. Let the greedy man step aside. Nothing. He takes nothing. I never asked for directions. Never asked for the car. You know I got 2 feet for walking, child. I said they're taking me this far. Now you think love's for liars. You've been talking behind closed doors. Well, you think money buys you everything. You think it evens up the score. But it takes nothing to give a man his pride. Nothing. Just judge him on how he rides. It takes nothing. Let the greedy man step aside. Nothing. It takes nothing. Well, I've seen all kinds of people trying to rule the world. Seen too many people trying to rule the world. Nothing, it takes nothing. Nothing, it takes nothing. Now God said to man, here's everything you'll ever need. A man never being satisfied, he said, greed is my need. Food, clothing, and shelter, what it takes to survive. There was a time you never owed another man to keep your body alive. But it takes nothing to give a man his pride. Nothing. Judge him on how he rides. It takes nothing. Let the greedy man step aside. Nothing. It takes nothing. What it takes? Nothing. It takes nothing. Nothing. It takes nothing.
That is some tasty music. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of Wavelength. And if you'd like to see them live, and I'm sure that the experience is doubly good.
Everything's kind of like a, you know, everything's kind of jammed together, because when I move on from something, I just move on from it. And like people talk, like old high school friends get together and talk about how, you know, remember when we used to do this? Well, 9 times out of 10, I don't. You know, I live in the moment, in that moment. So it's hard for me to retain a lot of details, but I do know that there's photos of me where you can see breast growth when I was still with Wavelength. And my wife left me and threw in the towel, if you will. When that split up occurred, about 2 weeks later, the band Wavelength split up. That was pretty much certainly one of the worst times in my life that I've ever had. I think I would have to say it was the worst time in my life because, I lost my wife, who I was really in love with, and like a lot of transgender people, when they get in a crisis situation like that, they do what's called purging. And so you get rid of all these nice clothes that you've acquired over a period of time because you're not going to do this anymore. And you're going to make your marriage work, and you're going to be a good heterosexual husband for your wife. And so I went through that period, which was really hard on myself and hard for me to concentrate on anything else. And of course, losing the band, it was a really good band, and I didn't even see it coming.
George in Wavelength didn't really change that much in his appearance. Even though we all knew about it, it was still something that he had in the closet. But no, that wasn't anything. I don't think anybody held that against him as far as that goes in the band. I mean, they might not have been happy with it, probably thought he was a little strange. But to this day, you can ask every one of those guys, and they'll say, he's still a damn good songwriter.
I didn't tell any members of my family until after my wife left me. And of course I was very depressed about that, and they were encouraging me, and frankly they really loved my ex-wife a lot, and couldn't understand it, why she would just leave me, and it was becoming her fault, and I could not just sit by and watch them blame her when I knew the reasons that we had split up were directly from me. And so that's when I told them. They didn't get all emotional. That I told them I was in therapy, and they knew that. And they just basically, their comment was that they didn't really understand it, and they couldn't imagine why I feel that way or how I feel that way. And, I, of course, didn't know really what to tell them myself. And, but they didn't jump up and down and get crazy or anything, but it wasn't until later that there was a little bit of tension between my father and I over the issue. The fact that my body was changing never really came up as an issue because, again, with having compassion for my family, they knew about me, they knew the story. I wasn't going to walk around, in a bathing suit in front of them to shove it down their throats. So when I was around my family, I mean, I like wearing overalls, obviously, or I wouldn't be wearing them. But when I was around my family, I would wear something like this because it, covered up my breasts. So they didn't have to be, we could focus on the family and not on that issue. They already knew about the issue. There was no reason to force it on them. And I think a lot of transgender people do that. They just try to force it on everybody and shove it down your throat. And, I'm a songwriter who happens to be a transsexual. That's all I am. And, it shouldn't really be an issue. I know that it is. We're talking about it, so it's an issue that people have curiosity, and why shouldn't they? They don't understand it. But when we say to them, we don't understand it any more than you do, we're in the same boat as you. So now, instead of us being separated, we're together. And that's where understanding can start. Because believe me, I would have not given up being Wayne George Mahler if I hadn't, if I didn't have to do it. If it wasn't a matter of survival, I would have never taken that route. And I had kept going through all this period, playing my music. And I had finally, around 88, that's when I actually transitioned in the music world. And I formed this band called Winte and Crazy Sacred Dog. A Winte is very hard to define in terms of Euro-American culture, because when all that started coming out, and there was a kind of a move in the GBLT community, more the GBL community, gay, lesbian, bisexual community, which more just gay, lesbian. It's so hard to put what a Winte is into terms that we can understand. They were people, as far as I know, it was a term for male-bodied individuals who, because of a dream or a vision or their own, their calling, if you will, they were commanded to basically, live their life as a third gender. And if like in the sense of being a man, then obviously they wore female clothing and often did a lot of female craft work and things along that line. The latitude that we have as a European culture on a material level is huge, but the latitude that we have on a spiritual level is very narrow, and it's almost the exact opposite in what I understand as traditional Native American cultures, in that they had a wide latitude on a spiritual plane. So you were, if your dream said you were Winte, that's what you were, and if you had been, Chief, Tomahawk, the day before, and you had your vision, and now you were Little Butterfly, then that's who you were. You were Little Butterfly, and nobody questioned it, because it came from the Spirit. It came from Creator. And so to talk about them in the same terms and say what is, if you talk to traditional gay people, a Winte is a gay person. If you talk to transgender people, a Winte is a transgender person. The reality for me is that it's the only thing that makes sense for who I am and what I am, and I identified with it on that level. And I don't really see it as a sexual issue whatsoever. I don't think it has anything to do with who you choose to sleep with, not sleep with, or sleep with at all. American Holocaust was a really hard album for me to do, because I had formed a band called Winte and Crazy Sacred Dog when I transitioned, and I was writing songs like Post-Op Freeway and It Ain't Easy for a Girl to Look Good, and Human Race, and Drag City was another song that I had written, and all these songs were really addressing my experience as a transsexual woman in white America. And I was in that mode, my heart was in that place, and all these songs that I had written about Native America were songs that I had written prior to that point in my life. And so I had to go back and kind of sing these songs that were really like typical angry young man songs,
She expected the album American Holocaust to explode, that everybody would be ready to receive the message, and it would catapult Georgie into quite a bit of acclaim past this mid-Atlantic region, and her whole strategy was based on that. Of course, that didn't happen. In fact, we ran into a lot of prejudice, not only because of Georgie's changing sexual appearance, but because the title of the song or of the album. We had a lot of music directors and station managers. At the time, I was helping promote the album, and I would take it around to stations, and station managers would say, "You have no right to that title American Holocaust. That's a word reserved for the Jews. And I asked each person that presented that, I asked them if they'd heard the album yet, and they always would say no. And I'd say, well, listen to the album, and if you still think that the Native Americans don't have the right to use the word Holocaust, or if you think Georgie Jessup used that term in any way that's takes lightly the situation the Jews went through, then I won't come back and bother you again. I also had a lot of prejudice in terms of, is she a man or is she a woman? And I struggled with that personally in terms of how to present her, how to best enhance her commercially.
I mean, they aren't pulling me off the stage and stoning me or anything, but at the same time, I'm not given the kind of maybe press that I may deserve as a songwriter, simply because I don't think they want that image out there of a successful songwriter who happens to be transsexual.
Georgie didn't see that as an issue that she needed to bother with. That's one of the long-term disagreements we've had. But I'd go into clubs who would understand that she was a transgendered person, and they would act like being transgendered was a disease that was contagious. And I didn't expect people to welcome Georgie with open arms. I think anytime you have a unique situation like Georgie's, you're going to run into prejudice. But I was shocked at the amount of discrimination I faced in presenting Georgie, and that, of course, Georgie faced as being herself.
If you happen to be like a hard rock or a garage type band, and you're a transsexual and you're wearing corsets and pushing your breast up and, you know, wearing all kinds of makeup and being outrageous, they'll promote you because they want to give people something they can laugh at or something that they can hate. And so the outrageous transsexual provides that, so they'll put that in a movie, or they'll put that on stage, or do whatever they need to do with it. And then the other image that you see out there is the person that's supposed to be pitied. You know, the one that, oh my God, they had to go through all this stuff and do all these things. And it is, you know, it's a hard, transitioning is a very hard thing to go through. And it does take a lot of work, but, you know, it takes a lot of work to be a doctor too. And, you know, to be a lawyer, and, you know, to be a great songwriter. And, you know, you see them all the time, you know, the Maury show, or Roseanne, or when she had a show, or Oprah, or any of them, and they have the transsexual on, and it's like, oh my God, you know, when I was a little boy, I wanted to play with dolls, and they wouldn't let me play with dolls. Ooh, you know, and, you know, they go on forever about that crap. But here's me, who, I mean, I grew up playing Cowboys and Indians, I wrestled, I played football, you know, I did a lot of things that were stereotypical boy activities, and yet I still felt the way that I felt inside. Now, isn't that much more exciting, or maybe that's the wrong word, I don't know, not exciting, but much more of a curiosity thing than the little feminine boy that says, I want to play with dolls? I mean, you know, but that's not what you hear on TV.
I know Georgie feels it's a personal attack on him, and sometimes maybe it is, but probably not always. I think also some places are afraid. I mean, maybe they're afraid of how it will go over, you know, kind of like I was afraid sometimes to take Georgie to certain environments, thinking that people wouldn't respond to Georgie, or I guess how they would react to Georgie. And maybe some places are like that. I mean, I understand there's a place he played in Virginia last year, and I think they were pretty rude to him.
She had an appearance once in West Virginia, and when it was discovered that there was going to be a transsexual performer, appearing at this place, there were death threats. And the show was canceled because originally, you don't know if that's a serious threat or not, but as the job got closer, the county sheriff felt it was a serious threat. They in fact did find someone who they thought was ready to shoot the club owner and or Georgie for, I guess, tainting the soil of the fine establishment. That was somebody that doesn't know Georgie as a person, but just the fact that Georgie has chosen a different path in life than he had, thought that was enough reason to hate. So Georgie's had experiences like that. The show was canceled and there was no harm done, except it broke my heart that Georgie had to back down for only being who she is.
Musicians have certain expectations and ideas about what they are, and sometimes they're not willing to be flexible enough to work within the bounds of the music business. And I'm not sure that that's good or bad, but it does slow one's momentum down.
I think Georgie takes it personal, and I think it makes him angry. You know, I mean, Georgie is good. He's a good artist. Nobody can deny that. And I don't understand why he's not playing. I don't understand why his music's not on the radio. I really don't.
I'm gonna ask the question. Won't you help me if you can? I need somebody to tell me what is the soul of a man? What is the soul of a man? Well, I read the Bible often. I try to read it right, as long as I can understand. It ain't nothing but a burning light. I want somebody help me. Answer if you can. I want somebody to help me. Tell me what is the soul of a man?
You know, has their rituals and their ceremonies, and the ceremony or ritual for transgender people who are more on the transsexual end of the scale is really surgery. You know, you can't use the women's bathroom until you've had surgery. You can't be addressed formally as a woman until you've had surgery. And that's their ritual, and that's their ceremonies and laws and the rules that they set up. And so my transition was kind of saying to them, this is that strong in my life that I'm willing to go through your ritual to show you how pure my heart is and how sincere my heart is. Do I think that somebody who hasn't had surgery is any less valid than me as a woman? Absolutely not.
People who are going to make a choice to go through transition essentially are telling the world that instead of being a male, say, they're going to be a female. And although this may be the right personal choice for them, it's you know, fraught with many difficulties. Family may desert them. They might not be able to be employed. There is some around the country decrease in economic potential for people who've transitioned. They may lose friends. You know, they can be teased. There's some violence and so forth. So there's many obstacles to this course. And in my opinion, it takes a pretty brave person to do that. You know, many of us have difficulty changing our hair or clothing styles, you know, something as mundane as that. And here's a person who's going to change essentially, you know, a very dominant thing about them, you know, they're who they are, essentially.
I couldn't have pretended for some of the time to been a man and some of the time to been a woman. I couldn't do it. And this culture defines men who walk around wearing dresses as gay people, gay men, drag queens, or cross-dressers, transvestites. And that isn't who I was. It wasn't what I was about. I'm not saying anything, those things are bad or good or whatever. It's just not who I was. And so I kind of defined myself more. And it also became a problem with relationships when I had a male body, because ultimately people still relate it to that great holy symbol, the phallic, you know, symbol, is even women worship it.
I remember when I first met Georgie, he showed me all these videos, like of his wedding and then his bands and his family. And this looked like a very successful person to me who had everything going for them. And I, after looking at all these videos and pictures, I turned to Georgie. I remember saying, you really must have needed to do this, because I can't imagine anybody having that much success and taking a gamble on it, which is what you do when you go through this kind of transition. You take a chance to lose your family, your career, your friends.
We know in the literature, you know, that there are instances of where people regret their decisions. People regret things like if they've had surgery, they regret things like the surgery wasn't perfect, you know. Maybe we all do that to a certain extent, but this is pretty massive surgery, so that they can feel like, oh, geez, I wish I had better surgery. People come back. I see people come back quite often, but it's more around issues in their lives. And the issues in their lives could be complicated by this. For instance, relationships that can be challenged by somebody telling, you know, you meet someone, you fall for them, and then you tell them you're transgendered, could be challenging in a relationship. So we may see, you know, we may see things of that nature.
And, you know, that's what's amazing about Georgie. Georgie hasn't lost anybody. I mean, Georgie still has the same friends and the same family. And when I first was with Georgie, I used to be worried about going to certain environments. I didn't know how people would react to Georgie, and I felt I had to protect him, which I didn't. Because Georgie would go into an environment, any environment, I don't care how conservative, and would win people over.
Let's get out to Remy and Donna.
Listening with your eyes, then you would not be surprised to see me standing here. Am I the subject of your hate? Are you too perfect to remain? Or does blood make you think? You know I meant to run that light. I never claimed I'd be polite. I want your sympathy or your bloody sacrifice. I will not die, I will not crash. I will not crash so you can laugh. Music that I made, you would not call it a mistake. You see the songs I paint, or listen to the gender dance. Are you afraid to take your chance? Or does blood make you faint? You know I meant to run that night. Never want your sympathy or your bloody sacrifice. I will not die, I will not crash. I will not crash so you can laugh.
Woman in a Man Suit is actually about my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, Anna Josephine Blum. She was very, influential on my life in terms of, I think, a lot of the positive things that, besides my parents, she was, very much a part of, I think, the good things about me. In 1988, I had a dream in which she came to the house I was living in at the time and took me on a journey and showed me a lot of prophetic things and some ancient things, and in the end bestowed a name on me, which is Donnerlichen, which is the only real important name that I have, and it means beautiful thunder. She's pictured on the back of the album in my grandfather's three-piece suit, and that's where the song title came, Woman in a Man Suit. And the chorus of it is, Woman in the Man Suit is smiling down on you, because in this dream the message was that I was finally getting my shit together and finally understanding what I needed to do in my life to move forward.
In the spring of '68, the angels drove my grandma home. She lived a peaceful life. The life she lived was a shaman's poem. All the way to heaven's gate, and God was there to take her hand. 20 years she's back again. She spoke with words I could understand. She said, somewhere in the middle, there is love that you know. Between the well and the sacred tree, the roots are strong. Take my hand and walk with me down the path to Yggdrasil. With knowledge comes the sacred tree. Call out to your ancestors, they speak, you receive your name. You'll see the love will grow upon this rock. Woman in the man suit is smiling down on me. I know the woman in the man suit is smiling down on me.
The theme of Woman in a Man Suit, if I had to narrow it down to one thing, is about love, and it's about the love that you get from family, the love that you get from connecting to other human beings, the love that you give from yourself without ego, without malice, without control, and the love that it takes to sometimes walk away, the love that it takes to understand that maybe you aren't helping the person that you love enough by being there. So it's really about love, but family is a big important part because I learned so many of those values. I learned so many of those things from my grandmother and from my mom and dad. Was I a good kid or a bad kid? Or?
I guess you were a good kid till you got older. Then I found out some stories.
Well, that's when I was really old.
Well, you were in high school, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Last year of high school.
Sneaking out the window.
Yes. Correct. And I didn't know about it until then, till just a short time ago.
Not very,
Yeah. He used to sneak out of his bedroom was on this level, and he just opened the window, took the screen out, stepped out the window, came back that way. And Bob and I were in bed sound asleep. And we didn't know about it. And I found it out just a couple years ago.
I used to do it down Dewey, too. When I used to sleep on the side porch, I used to go out the window there, too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Just finding that out now.
Yeah. My father is like, if I had to, like, pick out a human being for another planet to say, well, give us an example of a reason we shouldn't just nuke you all. And I would present my father to them and say, this man right here.
Georgie's dad, Chief, was an incredible man. A hard worker, just devoted to his family, devoted to his wife. Just a great guy. One of the nicest people I probably have ever met. Their relationship was a little rocky at times because their politics were very, very different.
We always had a feud, and Mom and I have continued it on since Pop passed. And I come over and I do this, and I do this, which I think is very appropriate, and I do this. Whoop, I do this, which I think is very appropriate. And Mom always comes in, and I come back over, and these are, up here or down, down here somewhere, and I gotta find them and put them back up, and that's the little game that we play.
I know Georgie shared a story with me that when Georgie first started transitioning, apparently his dad caught him in a dress and slammed him into the mirror and said, you're not a woman, look at you, you're a man and you won't wear a dress in my house, and told him to get out. And then from what I remember, I think that only lasted a few hours, and then Georgie's dad said, you're my son, I love you, and this is your home. The day that he died, everybody was there. We were all around the bed. And he died just the way he wanted to, too, by the way. He wanted to be in his wife's arms, and he was. She was holding him. And Georgie was on the other side, up by his head. And then my understanding is the Lakota have a traditional send-off song, and Georgie is an honorary Lakota. And he got together with his friend Two Bears, and wanted to do which I think the song is beautiful. I mean, I think it's awesome that culture, they have this tradition, and they got together and did the song, and there's a prayer in it that it was one of the last prayers his dad said, because his dad always said this very simple prayer before he ate. It still moves me when I hear it. It's like I see a big image of his dad every time I listen to it. His big smile.
I'll meet you on
and thanks for everything.
The other side.
I got married to Angie. Angie's actually my second ex-wife, But it was, I met her as a woman, legal woman, and, she was in between the lesbian and straight community. And, we decided to get married, so we went down and we got married. And they said that wasn't a legal marriage because now I'm a legal woman. And, I mean, how is that logical? What is the logic in that?
that I can't be, and then are they saying that I can marry, I have to be able to marry a man because that would deny me pursuit of happiness. If they didn't allow me to marry a man, so they have to allow me to marry a man. So what a mind fuck. I mean, that was the perfect case to point out how stupid all this shit is. It's two people in love and they come together and they marry. You know, it's a marriage. I don't care if they're male, male, or female, female, or male and female. And of course, the right wing is going to say, oh, well then people are going to marry their dogs. Well, you know, I love both of my dogs to death. Neither one of them can say, I do to me, or communicate that that's exactly what they mean beyond a shadow of a doubt to me. If they can do that, or if I can do that with them, I'd say, yeah, let's marry my dog. Why not? You know? Yes, I believe my political beliefs and passions have hindered me in my success. I know that American Holocaust, which was a pretty controversial album, was pretty much ignored by the general media and by even the native media because I wasn't native blood. I'm just telling the truth as I interpreted, I guess, in my life.
Georgie's extreme left, and I'm more to the right. But I think when it comes to the issues that matter, you know, like how people are treated, we agree. You know, we may not agree on all the economical issues. We may not even agree on the war on terror, you know. But when it comes to the welfare of people, of individuals in this country, and even around the world, I think we're both humanitarians there, you know. And I respect anybody who has the courage to stand up and say what they really think and what they really believe. And I don't get that. You don't get that with a lot of people. A lot of people say what they think you want to hear. A lot of people want to be popular. Georgie does not care about being popular. Georgie doesn't care if you like what he says. He's going to say it. Georgie says things that can offend people on both sides. You know? I mean, but at least you know where you stand with Georgie. At least this is an honest. I mean, he's just very honest, very raw.
There were all kinds of inspirations. I didn't set out to write an album that was going to piss anybody off or make anybody mad. Those songs just happened because they needed to be written. And I mean, that's my response to people that would want to, you know, tell me that I shouldn't be doing that. I should just be entertaining people, or, you know, I shouldn't be speaking out about something in a song. There are people in this world that are going to look at a song like Greed from American Holocaust or Devil's Child from Woman in a Man Suit, and I'll never be able to convince them that it's not un-American and, you know, that it's not against God in some way, shape, or form. And, you know, I'm sorry. I don't think I can let the people that are never going to accept me. I mean, I don't even have to open my mouth and sing, and I piss people off. So, I mean, I don't think I can let them rule my life. I can say that if Rush Limbaugh and the clown on Fox News, whatever his name is, if those guys are happy, there's a good chance that I'm angry and not very happy in the world. The same can be said in the opposite, that if I'm happy with all the laws that are in place and all the things that are going down and accepted socially, they're going to be very unhappy people, and I don't have the answer for that. You know, I don't know. Maybe we should just both grab 6 guns and walk outside and have a duel and do away with each other. I wish that they could put their rigid, closed-minded way of thinking aside and see the world a little bit the way maybe other people see the world, like me. And I see where a lot of them are coming from with me, for example. Why would a perfectly normal guy want to be a chick? You know, why would they cut off their dick? It don't make no sense to me. And, you know, I can truly understand why they're saying that. And I empathize with them. The only thing I can tell them is because.
This is the way it is. This is the truth. And, you know, if you want to put me in prison, it's still the truth. If you want to make laws against me, it's still the truth. If you want to kill me, it's still the truth. I think I'm somebody that believes in truth, and that doesn't mean that I haven't told my share of lies. I don't really have any things that I want to keep secret anymore. My big secret was being transgender and holding that in my life. And, you know, when that was out in the open, there is no big secrets. What you see is what you get.
Who cares if you see him as a he or she? It's Georgie. Listen to the music. Listen to the lyrics. I mean, that's what's important. Look how Georgie treats people. Look how Georgie treats his family and his friends. I mean, who cares about this transgender stuff? It's so small.
You think about the ridicule that people go through in life because they're different. Georgie's very different, and yet she has this great humanity. And she puts herself up on a stage and does her performance and says, this is me, it's here. You just accept me or you don't accept me. And it's not her problem if a person does or does not. In a society where people are constantly looking for acceptance, that they want to be like other people, you have to admire someone who can stand apart from the pack and say, this is who I am. And who she is a very wonderful thing.
She's very talented. I like her voice, she's got a great voice. And it's sincere, it's real. In our country, everything is the opposite of what it is. From being in show business and seeing people's, the image they project and who they really are, has just been really shocking a lot of times. But she is a true individual, and it's all real. And the same for the music. Sometimes her passion is like overwhelming. Okay, enough passion, I want to drink a beer or talk to a stupid person for a while.
My success as a musician, as a songwriter, I should probably be satisfied that my songs move people and they've been touched. You know, a lot of people have been touched by my music. For me, I think on a strictly personal, completely personal, selfish level, it would be that I could make my living singing my songs and performing my songs and having other people record and perform my songs. And, you know, I don't need a lot of money to do that. What I love about performing is that I go into this zone where it's kind of like, I'm a big admirer, as you know, of Fool's Crow, and he talks about becoming a hollow tube for Creator to fill up. And, you know, you know, when he does his healing, you know, it's Creator that's healing, and, you know, what he's talking about is basically giving up your ego so that you're not interpreting things and Creator's just filling you up. And while it'll be, I hope I reach that one day in my life, you know, what happens to me on stage is similar to that, because I go into this zone where I don't think about being a man or a woman. I don't think about anything really. I do it. I am. I grew up with myself as a male, and it's probably just as difficult for me sometimes to understand who I am as a transgender person as it is for people who don't understand transgenderness, or people that have known me from the past. As difficult as it for them to refer to, you know, Georgie as she. It's maybe not that difficult for me because I took the journey, but I understand their perspective. And then there's people that, you know, have met me in recent years, and this is the only way they know me, and they can't understand the other side. So I kind of take all that in, and I guess I'm a mixture of my surroundings and the family that I grew up in, and the time and the era that I grew up in. and still I try to be timeless in what I write and sing about, and in my perspective on life. I hope when I'm, you know, my mother's age, that I'm listening to good, soulful songwriters, you know, that have something to say.
Maybe I should kill myself. Could do it with some pills. Learn to shoot some heroin. I'm sure it packs a thrill. And maybe I should run away. Would fade into the hills. I will go where they can't find me, where there are no bills. But I love this life and all it gives, and I love the morning song. I love the way the sun shines through my dress as I sing along. Another day, I find a way to carry on. Now if you look inside my heart, you will find it's beating still. And mirrors are a scary thing, and I fear I'll take those pills. But I love this life and all it gives, and I love the morning song. And I love the way the sun shines through my dress as I sing along. Another day, I find a way